Hello everyone, welcome to this video. And that's great now that you're pretty much clear that you want to build your personal brand or have already started building one and are burning out or overthinking everything, or you're just stuck. What should I talk about? Why would anyone listen to me? How do I even start? If all these questions are yours, this workshop will help you figure that out. What, Khushbu? Workshop? It's a video, right? Yes, it's a video, but I would like to call it a workshop. Because if you take this as a workshop, I assure this knowledge will do the heavy lifting for you and will stop all your overthinking. So this is not the kind of video you just watch and forget. Here, you will actually build your personal brand foundation during this complete session. This video might be a little longer, but stay with it. And to make it easier, fun, and interactive, there's a simple workbook for this workshop. You can download it from the link in the description below or scan the QR code somewhere here on the screen. So pause the video, grab it, come back. Because today we are not just talking about personal branding, we are building one of yours. And I want you to not just randomly watch this video. So if your goal is to just chase followers, or if your goal is to just go viral, if your goal is to post random content and prey on the algorithm gods, if you believe so, this video will break your illusion. And today I'm going to show you a framework, a complete framework that explains why some creators become trusted voices, while others post for years and still feel invisible. And here is the big promise. If you follow this workshop properly, you won't just learn theory, you will leave with clear personal branding system and a 30-day content plan. And listen carefully. This is not a passive YouTube video. This is a workshop. I know this video is long, but trust me, every single minute of this workshop is going to be worth it. So do something right now, pause the video, grab a notebook, a pen or paper, make yourself a coffee if you want to, because I'll keep asking you to write down things. And when you're going to write down, there are many things that you'll feel you already know. This would be 100% self-realization session, which will bring out your best authentic stories, ideas, thoughts, and everything that is already inside you. And that will take to build up your content. And you will never ever have this problem of what should I post. Okay, so now because I'm starting completely raw, I want to start with why personal branding matters. And I'm sure pretty most of you must know why this matters, and that's why you're here. But let me say something honestly. Most people think personal branding is about followers, algorithm, viral content, growth hacks. But the truth is much simpler. Personal branding is about clarity and trust. So when somebody sees your content, and they should instantly understand who you are, what you believe, what problems you solve, and why they should listen to you. If that signal is not clear, people scroll, and they scroll really, really fast, because attention online is really brutal. But for the creators who win are not the loudest, they are the clearest. So, a quick story to help you understand this. Stay with me. Imagine you walk into a giant playground. Thousands of kids are talking. Someone shouting stories, someone showing toys, someone desperately trying to get attention. Sounds familiar? Yes, that's the internet. Now imagine one kid calmly stands up and says, "Hey everyone, I discovered a new way to build the strongest Lego tower." And suddenly people stop. They listen. Not because that kid shouted the loudest, but because the kid had something useful to say. And that is personal branding. You don't win by shouting louder, you win by sending a clear signal. So I hope this made sense. So before we start the framework, I'll be using two personas or two examples throughout this complete video. And why I'm using these two examples? Now, here's the reason I choose these two, because they are very different niches. One is a business and another is a personal development. So if the signal framework, the framework that we are going to discuss, works for both of them, it will work for almost any niche, no matter which niche you are in and why you're watching this video. So whether you're a designer, marketer, coach, founder, creator, student, writer, anything, the frameworks still apply. So the first example is this stealth mode founder. So this person is building a startup quietly. They are not chasing hype. They are validating ideas, testing products, uh, talking to early users, their core philosophies. Their core philosophy is build quietly before launching. And their audience are early stage founders, startup builders, and entrepreneurs. While the other example is the mindset coach. This person helps people improve thinking patterns. Topic include confidence, self-awareness, overthinking, emotional resilience, and their core philosophy is confidence grows through action. Now that you know this too clearly and very well, and maybe you fall in one of those, that's great. And if not in any niche, this is relevant to you. So one more thing before we begin. As we go through the exercises, the workbook that you've downloaded, you will notice something interesting when we start feeling that. You might start thinking, oh, wait, I could create content about this. Or, wow, I never thought my experience like that. So those would be your aha moments. Make sure you write it down boldly or with other color pen or however it is, because those aha moments you will realize will often become your best content you are going to post in the upcoming weeks or in the timeline. Okay, great. Now let's start with introducing you to the signal framework. Signal stands for S, speak from your position. We'll talk about it. I, inject your humanity. G stands for give people solutions. N stands for navigate a contrarian belief. A stands for anchor associations, and L stands for loop your message. We will deep dive into each of them in detail, and I'll make sure you finish each one of this with 100% clarity. So think of your brand like a lighthouse, right? A lighthouse that sends a signal, a very clear, right signal. Your personal brand must do the same. So let's break it down one by one with pen and paper and some thinking sidewise. Step one, that is speak from your position. Okay, what's this? Now, the first mistake creators make is pretending to be someone they are not. And the internet sends that immediately, almost immediately. So before you create content, before you write post, before you start building a brand, you must answer one question. That is, are you a student or are you an expert? And most creators skip this step. And then they wonder why their content feel confusing. Because the audience is thinking, who is this person and why should I listen? Because to be real, there are only two honest ways to show up online. Student documenting a journey or expert sharing experience. That's it. There is no third position. And by the way, both are equally powerful. Now, this is what you need to do if you are a student. And if you're an expert, stay with me. Even the student exercise and activity is amazing. Now, if you have identified with the fact that you are a learner, you have less experience, you are documenting your journey of whatever you're learning, and you're showing it to the people, you are in the student zone. And let me help you create your content bank. So how would you use that? Here's a quick activity for you. Come on, get the pen and paper out. First is build your interest bank. All right. Now draw 4 columns, and one column is curiosity, second is experiment, third is questions, and fourth is observation. Because your interest bank is all about this: what you're curious about, what you're experimenting, what questions that you have in mind, and what are observations, what are you observing around you. And most important rule, do not write one idea, write at least 3 to 5 in each of the column. I'll help you with that, don't worry. I just want you to push your brain a little more, think a little more. Don't write a one-liner, drill deep, and whatever coming to you, just uh, note it down. Now, because this columns is where your future content will come from, I assure you. Need further help? I told you I'm going to give you no reason to not finish this activity by the end of this video. So what is curiosity? Oh, Kushbu, I don't know what's curiosity and what should I put in here. So curiosity is things you are genuinely interested in understanding, right? Can you now get some answers? A few. So it's like, what fascinates you? So let me break it down. Curiosity is simple. The question your mind keeps coming back to. It is the things it are the things you keep thinking about. Why does this happen? How does this work? What am I missing here? Not because someone told you to learn it, but because you genuinely wanted to understand it. Did something come to your mind? Note it down. Now I'm making it a more simpler. Curiosity is what you maybe Google repeatedly, what you stop scrolling for, what you keep noticing again and again. What makes you say, yeah, this is interesting? And why this curiosity matters? While I'm giving you all this, whatever comes to your mind, make sure you note it down. So most people struggle with content because they try to sound smart. They try to copy others. They want They wait for the perfect ideas. But creators who grow fast do one thing differently. They follow their curiosity, right? If you're curious enough, if you've learned something new and you are vocal about it and you're making content about it, people people do relate to it. Okay. So what happens when you follow your curiosity? You stop forcing content, you start thinking deeper, you naturally generate ideas, and your content feel real instead of scripted. And most importantly, your audience starts thinking, this person understands what I am going through. Okay. Now, if you have still not got the answer of what should I insert in curiosity, there are a few questions which just hear it out, and whatever comes to you, just write it down. So what topics do you keep Googling or researching immediately? What type of videos or articles do you always stop and watch? And what skills are you currently trying to improve? What industry trend are you trying to understand better? What topic do you enjoy discussing with your friends or colleagues? Or what idea made you think, why does this work like that? Sorry. What do you feel most excited to learn about the next? There would be a list for you if you are a learner. What problem in your field makes you think there must be a better way? What kind of content do you save or bookmark often? Just go back to it and you will understand what you're interested in. What are you curious about? And what topics make you lose track of time when you're learning about it? This is really interesting. Maybe if you're watching this video, you're interested in personal branding and understand how it works. So even this is. So these are the questions which will help you uncover your curiosity. Now, I told you I'll be covering 2 examples throughout this video. So if a mindset coach would have written this down, these are the questions, these are the curiosity they might have. Why do people understand confidence logically but still freeze in real situations? I want you to be this deep, write down deep questions. It's not a small one line, what is this, what is that? Deep, think through. The more you think, the more you drill down, you will have a content bank, content library with you, ideas. So why does someone feel confident in one area but insecure in others? Why do people sabotage themselves right before progress? Why does journaling work for some but feel useless for others? And why do some people keep consuming content but avoid taking action? And similarly, curiosity of the founder would be, why do some founders spend months building but launch to silence? Or why do users say, this is interesting but never pay? And why does feedback from friends feel positive but real users don't convert? So these are real, genuine. Do you see the difference? You have to be really practical and think through. Now, once you figured out all this, where will you use this? This is where it becomes very, very powerful. Your curiosity becomes your content idea, right? Your hooks, your positioning, your learning direction, right? Don't complicate this. You are not trying to sound like an expert here. You are simply asking, what am I genuinely trying to understand right now? Write it down, because those questions will become your content, your voice, and your signal that you will be sending to your audience. Coming to the next column, which is experiment. Now, what is experiment? Something that you're experimenting with, but I'll still break it down so that you have some clear prompts, things in your head coming, and you write it down. The things you are actively trying or testing, maybe failing, maybe succeeding, or whatever it is. So what are you testing right now? What are your experiments right now? Experiments are simple. These things you're not sure about yet, but you're trying anyway. It's where you say, let me try this and see what happens. And I don't know if this will work, but I'll test it. So let me make this even simpler. So experiments are what you are currently doing differently, what you are testing in the real life. Maybe it's already tested, but you're doing it. Maybe you will find a better way or a alternative way, and that would be your own path of discovering it. So what are you figuring out through actions? Not theory, not advice, not something you read, something you are actually doing, right? So why experiment matters? Because people don't trust perfect advice. They trust real experience. Even if you have failures, that's a real experience. And the problem is, most content online sounds like, you should do this. This is the best strategy. Expert says. But your audience is thinking, but does this actually work in real life? That's where experiment come in. When you share experiments, you're saying, I tried this, here's what actually happened. And that instantly builds trust, relatability, credibility, everything. What makes experiment really powerful is experiment shows you are doing the work, not just talking about it. You are learning in real time, not pretending to know anyone. Now, here's the best part. You don't need to be successful yet. And even if something fails, it becomes your content. Even if now you have not completed this column, here are a few other questions which will help you figure out and help you write down this. Now, write down whatever comes to your mind. I want you to think a little deep, push yourself a little more. So, what new methods are you trying to see if it works? What strategies are you experimenting with in your work? What routine are you testing in your daily life? It's not that you need to talk about one particular thing. It can be your routine. You can talk about multiple things. What routine are you testing in your daily life? What tools and software are you trying for the first time? What habit are you trying to build or break? What approach did you recently try that gave unexpected results or maybe flopped? What productivity trick are you currently experimenting with? What learning techniques are you trying to improve faster? Or maybe what small changes have you set for yourself this week? So, where will you use this later, this particular experiment section? Where will you use this once you list it down? You will use in your content stories, you will use in your learning content, like what you tried, what worked, what didn't, what you learned, etc. And you have to proper say that I legit tried it instead of here is the formula or XYZ. Now, your authority without faking it. Instead of saying I am an expert, you show I am figuring this out in real life. That feels more honest and people trust that. Your unique perspective. Two people can try the same thing, but their learnings can be different. You know, that difference become your voice. Most people wait to become an expert. You don't. You document experiment. That's how you become one. So don't overthink this. You are not trying to prove anything. You're simply asking, what am I trying right now? Now write it down because your experiments will turn into your stories, your insights, and your credibility. Perfect. Coming to the third column, which is questions. Now, what are questions? Questions are things that genuinely confuses you or make you think or make you stop. What confuses you? Some of the questions or the ideas that you will list down might overlap, and that's okay. Don't overthink about it. For all the columns, it might overlap, and that's okay. Now, what are questions? Questions are the thing that make you pause and say, this doesn't make sense. Why is this even happening? What am I missing here? And you know, these are not smart sounding questions, but these are honest confusions. And I bet this is going to bring you the most of visibility if you are blunt, raw, and upfront about it. Now, if something comes to your mind, do write it down. And if you are unable to figure out what are the questions that's coming to you, here are a few additional questions I am asking you, and write the answers, whatever come to your mind, right? Now, what problem have you not fully solved yet? What are the problems that you have not fully solved yet? What question do you keep asking yourself? Even if something did not pop up to your mind immediately, think about it later. If you want, you can take a screenshot of the questions and maybe come back to it. So, what advice in your industry feels unclear or contradictory? What concepts took you a long time to understand properly? And what challenge do you feel many people struggle with? What topic do beginners ask about again and again? This is very interesting. I started with this because I was really confused of what content to make. So I just kept a note of how many people have come to me and what are the queries they came for. So I started creating content for that. What question do people often ask you? What idea made you think this doesn't make sense? And what problem do you feel there must be a better solution for? It's now this is a place where your thinking is incomplete. And that is why it's the most powerful. And that's exactly it's tend to attract the right follower because most of them are in the same phase as yours and need help. And you are the one giving the help and showing them, yes, this is a problem. And then you will start creating a community around it. Now that you've finished this section, now let's start with the last column, which is observations. What are observations? Observations are the pattern you notice in people, work, or life. Now, what patterns are you noticing? This particular thing needs a lot of introspection, and it sometimes it might come to you naturally. So, what are the patterns that you're observing near you? What? Let me give you a few more questions, which will get few good answers within yourself. Now, what behavior do you see people repeat again and again? Like I see people repeating posting and ghosting. What mistakes do beginner consistently make? What habits do successful people share in common? What difference do you see between beginners and expert? What patterns do you notice in successful content on or brands? That is mine, but your can be anything. What trend do you see growing in your particular industry or niche, or something related to your audience or whatever you're trying to track? What surprising behavior do you notice in people or colleagues or whichever section you're dealing with or staying the most of the time with? What small things makes a big difference in result according to you? What patterns do you notice in your own progress or even failures? Now pause the video, fill at least 3 ideas per column, at least three. I would highly recommend it 5 or 10, and drill deep. Whatever comes to your mind, write it down. Seriously. So, and if you have written something down, give yourself a small clap because you created 20 to 30 future content ideas, which is completely yours from your head, from your experience, from your learning, from your failures, from your success, for your timeline. It's completely yours. Now, meanwhile, you do this, let me give you a real life example of Justin Wells. He didn't start as you can check his account on LinkedIn. He didn't start as some big creator with a perfect system. He started as someone figuring things out. He was building a solo consulting business. And instead of waiting to become an expert, he started documenting the journey. Not polished, not frameworks, the perfect ones, just real things like what worked, what didn't, what he was trying, what he was learning. He would share things like, I tried this pricing model and here's what happened. This outreach didn't work, here's why. This system helped me save time and here's how. Now think about this. At that stage, he didn't have a massive audience, a huge brand, or a big team, but he had something more powerful, clarity about what he was learning. And slowly, something interesting happened. People started following him not because he was perfect, but because he was consistent, predictable, and honest. They could see his thinking, his process, his evolution. And over time, those small documented learning turned into clear systems, strong opinions, repeatable frameworks. And that's when the shift happened. From documenting as a student to teaching as an expert. That is the journey he covered. And that is something that you can do it too. So today he has 600K plus followers on LinkedIn or maybe more. He's a multi-million dollar 1% business, right? Part most people miss is his growth didn't start when he became an expert. It started when he started documenting. And that's exactly what this step is about. You don't need to wait. You don't need to be ready. You simply need to observe, experiment, question, and share. Because what feels small to you right now might be exactly what someone else needs to hear, right? Now, students, I think this activity will 100% help you if you do it right, and you'll never run out of content ideas ever again. And that would be 100% your authentic, inspired, your tone, your personality, your thinking, everything yours. Now, experts, it's time for experts. You're overthinking a lot. Now, let's simplify this a little. Come on. So, for experts who have now done some amount of work, have some results, have are busy in a lot of chores in bringing results either for them or themselves, their brand, their business, or for whatever they're working for. Now, like for the student, you build the question bank. Here, you would build your credibility map because you have done a lot of work. So you need to have a credibility map. Now, the funny thing about expertise is this: the thing that feel obvious to you now are often the things beginner desperately want to learn, right? If you are more on the expert side, this activity is perfect for you. Now, come on, take your pen and paper, draw 3 columns. The first column is problem you solved. The second one is systems you build. And the third one is lesson you've learned. And I don't want you to passively scroll again. Please, please do not do that. If you're ready with a pen and paper, are contemplating on what to write, I'll help you with that. Let me help you a little more. Now relax. Hear this question. What is the first few things that comes to your mind? Just start noting it, right? Don't worry on refining it right now. You can do this anytime later. Now, coming to the column 1, which is problem I solve. So what is this? This is things you figured out, improved, or helped someone with. Now, problem I solved simply means things that were once difficult for you, but feels easier now. That's it. Not big achievements, not massive success stories, just problems where you went from, I struggled with this, XYZ, or I understand this better now, XYZ, whatever it is. So you need to write it down. And if something is not popping up in your head, what to write it down, there are some questions which will help you think a little more deeper and bring out some answers within you, which is already within you. Now, what problems used to frustrate you earlier, but now feels easier? For example, learning a tool, using a tool, managing time, managing teams, communicating clearly, hiring people, anything that you have that was very frustrating you in the past, and right now it feels easier. What have people asked you for help with? Now, there are many people who would be reaching out to you. They might be appreciating you, acknowledging you, or whatever it is, or maybe coming for queries. Now, your friends, your colleagues, your juniors, your client, even small advice quotes, whatever it is. What have people asked you for help? This is really interesting, and this will fetch you a lot of answers. Now, what challenge did you struggle with in the past that you eventually figured out? What challenge did you struggle with in the past that you eventually figured out? Or what mistakes did you make that taught you something valuable? What problems in your work or life did you find a better way to handle? Each of these questions will have deep layers if you sit with even one question, right? But anyway, I just want you to write 3 or 4 immediately and maybe refer to this later and finish this. Now, don't think, is this problem a big enough? This is not your work, right? Think, is someone else still struggling with this? If yes, it's 100% valuable. So you don't overcomplicate this. You are not trying to impress anyone. You are simply asking, what did I struggle with earlier that I understand better now? And write it down. Because your solved problem are the foundation of your voice, your content, and your credibility. So you do not need to borrow this idea from other contents. This should be completely yours, right? This cannot be theory. Now, example for the mindset coach, if they would write this would be, I used to understand confidence, but still stayed silent in important meeting. I struggled with overthinking, even small decisions. I kept waiting to feel ready before taking decisions. I compared myself constantly and fell behind. I knew what to do, but didn't follow enough. Now, this all feels like an internal struggle, and this all feels relatable, right? Now, for the founder, it is, I built product without validating demand. I struggled to find my first real users. I relied on feedback from friends instead of customers. I delayed launching because things weren't perfect. I didn't know what ideas was worth pursuing. Now, these all feels like real founder journey, right? Not theory. So this needs to be 100% yours, not borrowed. And where will you use this? This is where it becomes extremely valuable and powerful, because this is building your credibility. This would be your teaching content, because this is something you have done firsthand, right? Every problem that you have solved become a lesson. For example, I used to overthink everything, but until I realized something simple, XYZ, whatever it is. You can use it in your story content. You can show where you were, what changed, and what helped. This will help you understand as a wholesome person. And that will create a connection. You can build it, you can use it as an authority without even saying that I'm an expert. Instead of claiming expertise, you show I have been through this, and that feels real. You can also use this in your offering or your positioning. Over time, pattern appears. For example, if you have solved multiple problems and maybe you're a mindset coach, you would be known for confidence, and you become known for mindset. And similarly for the entrepreneur, stealth mode founder, and for the founder, he would be known for validation. And he or she become known for the startup, and that becomes your niche, right? Now, you have to remember this: a solved problem doesn't have to be huge. If you solve something that someone else is still struggling with, that's valuable, right? Now, come on, list it down, whatever comes to your mind, and let's come to column 2, which is systems I built. Now, what are the systems you built? See, you do not need to be in a big position to build systems. Systems can be anything from your routine to the productivity tools you use, what have worked for you as a system, right? Your book reading habit, any of the system that has worked for you. It not needs to be a huge one. Now, these are small methods, routine, or processes that has worked for you. So what is a system? A system is simply something you repeat because it works. You wake up 5 a.m. in the morning because it's worked for you. You read 10 pages a day because it works for you. You work for only 4 hours a day. It works for you. That is, if that's your personality, you have to say. It's not supposed to have a big milestone. Smallest of your chores, which is your style of execution, which has worked for you. This is the system you have built. Now, if you can't list this down, ask yourself these questions. What routine help you stay organized or productive? Do you follow a specific method when solving a problem? Or what step-by-step approach do you naturally follow while working or solving a particular problem? I am saying working, but go deep of whatever you want to discuss about. What habit or structure help you stay consistent? What process do you use to make decisions or solve problems? Right? These questions are really powerful. You can pause, and I'm sure many answers will pop up in your head. You just need to write it down. So coming back to the example, the mindset coach here would write down, 5-minute journaling system to process thoughts. He or she might be using it. She would be using weekly reflections of what she avoided versus what she acted on, naming emotions instead of reacting on them, breaking big decisions into small, low risk action. Now, when you talk about this thing, this shows repeatable thinking patterns, right? And as a founder, you might simple landing page testing before product creation, weekly feedback loop with early users, the build, test, learn cycle instead of long development. So this all shows actual execution systems. So if you do something repeatedly because it works, that is already a system, right? Coming to the third column, which is lessons I've learned. So what are lessons? These are insights that change the way you think. Lessons are the moment where your thinking changed. Let me ask you questions if you're unable to list few of this. Now, what belief about your work or life changed your experience? What advice do you wish someone had told you earlier? What mistakes taught you the biggest lesson? What realization made things easier for you? And what did you learn the hard way? So these are the lessons you've learned. You might have failed, you might have succeeded. Both matters, right? So this is really simple if you just sit and think through about this. Now, if something took you months or years to understand, it will save someone else months or years too. That is the simple point. Confidence grows through action. Now, pause the video. If you write just 3 in each column, you already have 9 content ideas. And if you write 5 in each column, you suddenly have 15 powerful content ideas, all completely yours, right? Now that we understand who we are speaking as, now when you have listed down all of this, I'm sure you will understand who you're speaking as. But something else matters, because expertise alone does not create connection. People don't follow machines, they follow humans, which brings us to the second part of the signal framework, which is SIGNAL, the I, which is inject your humanity. Now, what is this and why does it matter? So many create a burnout. Why? Because they accidentally build what I called a content cage. A brand so narrow that they can only talk about one particular topic. Eventually, it feels very, very forced. So that is why humanity, injecting your humanity here matters. And you have to put in the human aspect, the human angle, the human element to your piece of contents or writings that you're creating. Now, to inject your humanity, here is a human signal activity. Now, relax, think about your whole life. This is here relaxing is the most important thing, because we are not talking only about work or something you're passionate about. We are talking about your real life, things about your whole life, not just work. Mind it, not just work. So before you start writing in these boxes, I want you to pause for a moment, take a deep breath, and remember something important. You are not just a professional, you are a real human being living a life. And you have hobbies, interests, opinions, experiences, struggles, little habits, little joys, memories, daily routines, fun stories, family time, random thoughts, overthinking, anything. And those things are exactly what makes personal brand relatable, right? Many people think content come only from expertise, but the truth is, some of the most engaging content online comes from your own life experiences. So for this exercise, do not think like a professional at all. Think like a human being reflecting on life, and remember the rule. Write at least 3 to 5 things in each column. The more you write, the easier storytelling becomes now. When you inject humanity, storytelling automatic builds up in your content. Now, the activity is draw 4 boxes again. And the boxes are things I love talking about, things I enjoy doing, stories from my life, and random interest. Remember, write 3 to 5 items in each. This is kind of self-explanatory, but I'm sure there are many people who would still need help. So come on. Come on, this is quite simple, and I think you can do this. And if you feel like you're writing random things here, good. That means you are doing this exercise 100% correctly. I want you to be relaxed. Whatever comes to your mind, think through life and write it down. Because personal brands become more powerful when they feel human, not robotic, right? But I know some of you might still feel overwhelmed and maybe carried away here and there, living unsure about your own life. It happens. Just because I want you to finish this, here is your help. Now, what to write in things I love talking about? Topic that energizes you when discussing them. So ask yourself these questions and write down whatever comes to you. What topic do I enjoy discussing for hours without getting bored? What subject do I naturally bring up in conversations with friends? I bring out career and skills and personal branding, obviously. So what are the conversations that naturally comes to you when you're talking with your friends or colleagues? What topics make you say this is so interesting? What kind of discussions make you feel excited or passionate? And what topics do I always watch videos or read articles about? You might write psychology, startup, fitness, book, productivity, design, travel, technology, personal growth, learning, anything. But I don't want you to write just a word. Make it a full-fledged big sentence, because that is way powerful than simple one-liner words. But right now, if you want to just write in one word, write it and do fill it out later. The bigger idea about it. Like now, psychology is a big topic. What in psychology that you're interested in? Now, coming to the second, this was really simple and you need to finish this off. And coming to the next part, which is things I enjoy doing. What are these things? These are activities that make you feel energized. Now, think about activities, not topics. Again, activities. Ask yourself, what activities make you lose track of time? What do I enjoy doing on weekends, on or your free time, particularly? What activities help me relax or recharge? What hobbies do I naturally go back to? What do I enjoy doing even if no one pays me for it, right? So example could be reading, running, gaming, writing, learning new things, traveling, cooking, working out, photography, anything you need to. And again, journaling thoughts, or the mindset coach would have written journaling thoughts and patterns, observing human behaviors in conversations, reading psychology and self-development books, reflecting on daily decisions, breaking down emotions into simple understanding. And the founder can write brainstorming product ideas, observing how people use products, reading entrepreneur books, taking productivity classes, hiring a life coach. It could be anything. Now, this is really simple and this is absolutely personal, so you need to think about it. Now, stories from my life. This is very interesting. Now, these are experiences that taught you something. Now we move to the real storytelling. Now, ask yourself, what experiences in my life changed the way I think? Here is your life timeline. Here you need to get back and think your life. What experience in your life changed the way I think? What struggles taught me an important lesson? What mistakes helped me grow? What challenge did I overcome? And each one of you, if you sit down, I'm sure you will have 5 to 8 answers in itself. But to finish off, to at least to finish this and not to procrastinate, write down at least 3 and the detailed one. What moments made me realize something important about life or work? It could be failing in an exam and the feeling about it, starting a business that didn't work and what was your learning, moving to a new city and your experience about it, changing careers and the tough part about it, learning a new skill late in life, and how does it landed, overcoming fear of speaking. Now, stories don't need to be dramatic. Sometimes the most powerful stories come from small realization. Why I'm not giving examples for mindset and founder? Because these stories are really, really personal, and this comes completely from your experiences, right? Now, coming to the fourth part, which is random interest, things you find interesting, playing Uno, going on trips, going on coffee dates, working from cafes, could be anything. So, making crochet, reading books, random interest, things you find interesting, even if they are unrelated to your work. Again, I told you, some of it might overlap, and that's okay. Now, this is a fun column. I really want you to be little loose, relax, and think about it. What random topics I find fascinating? What YouTube rabbit holes do I fall into? It can be your love for Bollywood. It can be your love for YouTube vlogs of whatever, XYZ, anything. What documentary or podcast do you enjoy? What unusual topics makes you curious? What subject do I explore just for fun, right? So, for example, could be you're interested in history, you're interested in behavioral psychology, you're interested in geopolitics, you're interested in AI tools, you're interested in design trends, philosophy, product reviews, anything. So, right, I want you to finish this. This is really simple, and I want you to finish this. Now, meanwhile you do this, let me give you example of another person, which is Ali Abdal. He teaches productivity, but he also shares books, life lessons, business experiments, travel, and that mix of expertise. This complete activity will make sense if you understand this. He shared books, life lessons, business experiments, travel, and this mix of expertise plus personality made his brand relatable. Today, he has 5 million plus YouTube subscribers. He didn't grow just because he talked about productivity. He grew because he understood how to guide people at different stages. In the beginning, most of his content was very, very simple. He focused on helping people who were just getting started. Things like what is productivity, how to build habits, how to stop procrastinating, simple study techniques. And that was his cold audience. And because someone discovering him for the first time needs clarity, simplicity, easy entry point. But here is where it gets interesting. And his audience grew. He didn't stay at that basic level. He started creating deeper content for people who already trusted him. Things like deep work strategies, system for creative output, how to manage time as a creator, advanced productivity experiments. And this were the warm audience content that he created. So he did that. Now, so what did he do right? He didn't choose between beginner content or advanced content. He chose both. And that's why his content works so well, because new people can enter easily, existing audience keep growing with him. So the insight you should take here is if you only create beginner content, people understand you, but they don't stay. If you create advanced content, people respect you, but don't enter. But when you balance both, people enter and stay. So Ali Abdal didn't grow just because of productivity. He grew because he knew exactly what to say to someone who just discovered him. So what to say is something you have been following. What to say to someone who is following him for months. And that's exactly what you're building here. Not just content, a journey people can enter and continue, right? Now that we understand who we are and how to show humanity, but the internet doesn't reward personality alone. Your content must solve something, which brings us to the next part, which is give people relief. What is this? Let's understand. Now, people search for information when something hurts, right? This is called pain principle. So according to Google research data, over 70% of online searches are problem solving queries, right? Meaning people search when something is frustrating them. So that's why I've designed this quick activity to for the step 3 of the single framework, give people relief. And the activity is called pain point activity. Now, write down my audience struggle with whatever your audience is. See, I'm not going into identifying your audience. You would have some vague idea of what your audience is and stick to it. Don't worry about that. So my audience struggles with, and list down 10 pain points. Example, mindset coach, overthinking, self-doubt, fear of judgment, and sell mode would be validating idea, product market fit, launching time, whatever it is. What if you're thinking, but if you're thinking, I don't know my audience pain point yet, don't worry. You already know more than you think. Because pain points usually come from 3 places. Problems you personally faced earlier, problems people around you talk about, and problems beginners in your field consistently struggle with. So instead of guessing, we are going to think through a few simple questions which will help you figure out this. Step 1, start with your past life, right? Think about yourself 1 to 3 years back ago and ask yourself, what problem used to frustrate me earlier? What did I struggle to understand at the beginning? What mistakes did I repeatedly make? What felt confusing when I first started learning this skill? What problem took me a long time to solve? Right? This is you 2 to 3 or 5 years back, right? The past struggles of the mindset coach would be I knew what to do, but didn't took action. I overthought every decision and delayed everything. I felt confident one day and doubtful the next day. I kept waiting for the right moment. I struggled to stay consistent. While the founder, past struggles were I didn't know how to validate ideas. I kept building without knowing if people wanted it. I delayed launching due to perfection. I struggled to find real users. I relied on opinion instead of real data. Can you see your past struggle often becomes your audience current struggles? This is a self-realization activity. For you, for some of you, might be very easy. For some of you, it might take time, but do finish it off. I've given you a trick that you need to get 5 years back and whatever your doubts or things were in your head, you need to list it down, right? Coming to the next step, which is think about the real conversations. Now, think about conversations with friends, colleagues, clients, students, people in your community, and ask yourself, what question do people ask me repeatedly again? What problem do people complain about? What advice do people often ask from me? What frustrations do I hear people talking about often? Right? Right? The mindset coach, people would often say, I feel stuck even though I know what to do. I can't stay consistent. I keep comparing myself. I overthink almost everything. And for the founder, it would be like, I don't know where to start. What if my idea fails? What do I get? How do I get my first users? What if someone copies my idea? I don't know if this idea is even worth it. Right? So you need to think about in this way. If something is not coming to you, these are only hints to help you list the answers. Step 3 is observe beginners. Now, think about people who are just starting in their field and ask yourself, what mistakes do beginners usually make? What do they misunderstand? What do they struggle to stay consistent with? What scares them about getting started, right? For example, the mindset coach, beginners struggle with, they consume a lot but don't act. They wait for motivation, they avoid discomfort, they overthink simple steps, and they look for perfect plans. And with the founders, it would be they start building without validation. They focus on ideas more than users. They delay shipping. They chase trends instead of solving problems. They ignore customer feedback, right? And even if now you don't have got the answers, you need to pause and use this technique, which is use the internet as a paying library. If you're still stuck, the internet literally shows you what people struggle with. Look at Reddit, Quora, YouTube comments, Amazon book reviews, Answer the Public. Those platforms are basically public paying libraries. I can cover how to find these questions in these platforms. You can later find videos and try your hands on this. These are quite simple websites to use. So what you can do is get into this website, search something like whatever your topic is, how to build confidence, how to start a startup, look at the questions people ask. Those questions are the real pain points. Now that we know what problem to solve, we move on to the next one. Now that we know what problem to solve, but here's the challenge, million of creators solves problem. So how do you even stand out, right? So we come to the next point of the single framework, that is N, navigate a contrarian belief. Now, what is a contrarian belief? It is a contrarian belief is simply an idea you believe that is different from what most people in your industry usually say. Not for the sake of arguing, not for the sake of controversy, but because your experience of thinking led you to a different conclusion. In simple words, a contrarian belief is when you say, I see this differently, not like the one you're saying. Even simpler, most people say, do it this way. And a contrarian belief says, actually, I think there's a better way. So why contrarian beliefs are powerful? Because the internet is full of repetitive advice. People hear the same tip again and again and again. And when someone presents a fresh perspective, people stop and think. That's when your content becomes interesting. And this important clarification, contrarian does not mean controversial. Don't mix it with this. You're not trying to provoke people. You're simply sharing a different perspective based on your experience. Now, how to figure out your contrarian belief. So here's an activity for it, which is called contrarian exercise. You need to build up two columns, which is what your industry says and what I believe. So example, your industry says build in public, while belief says build quietly first. I know this looks easy, but it might take some time for you to list this down. And trust me, I do not want you to pause this. I do not want you to do this later because the rhythm, the energy will be gone, and so will this video. So I took this extra effort to help you figure this out. Um, don't know what to write here, your contrarian belief, do this. Think about this. Start with a common advice. First, think about the advice people in your industry repeat all the time. Just write that. If nothing comes to you, here's a question. Hear this. What advice do you or I do you hear and again? What advice do you hear again and again? Anything. It could be your niche, it could be from your personal life, personal experience, anything. What tips do people keep repeating online? What strategies does everyone recommend? What rules do people say you must follow? Right? Now, write those in the industry say column. Example, industry say post every day, stay positive all the time, build in public, follow trends, wake up at 5 a.m., use more tools to be productive, create more content to grow faster. Personal, professional, anything, include anything and everything in it. Right? The next step is now ask yourself, and look at those statements that you've written down and ask yourself for each of the statement, do I completely agree with this? Did my experience show something different? Did I try this advice and realize something else works better? Is there a missing nuance people don't talk about? For each one of it, write that in what I believe column. Sometimes your contrarian belief is simply saying, yes, but there's another side to this. That's it. Try to write at least 3 to 5 rows in this table. Even small differences out. Personal, professional, your niche, not niche, your life, anything. Because those differences are often where your unique perspective lives. I'm sure many of you will discover something really interesting here. You will realize you already disagree with many industry advice. You just never wrote it down, and those ideas become the most interesting content they create. Now, here's an example for mindset coach. Industry says motivation is the key to consistency, while I believe system work even when motivation disappears. For the mindset coach, stay positive all the time. What I believe is constant positivity creates fresh pressure. Industry says avoid discomfort to feel better. What I believe is sitting with discomfort build real strength, right? Similarly, for Style founder, industry says share your journey early. What I believe is share too early, create pressure before clarity. Industry says raise funding to scale. What the founder believe is funding can hide bad ideas longer. Now, meanwhile, you finish this activity. Here's a quick another case study or example, which is Naval Ravikant. I'm sure you must have heard about him. He didn't became known because he posted more. He became known because he thought differently. At a time when most advice online sounded like work harder, hustle more, put in your work, Naval said something very different: seek leverage. Now, pause for a second. That one line changes everything. Because instead of telling people work more, grind more, push harder, he shifted focus to working smarter through systems, assets, and scales. Now, that's a contrarian belief, not loud, not controversial, but deeply different. And here's what happened: people stopped scrolling because they had heard work harder 1,000 times. But this felt new. This made them think. Then he went deeper. His famous tweet storm, "How to get rich without getting lucky," was not just a trend; it was a collection of sharp contrarian ideas, simple, clear, repeatable thinking, statement people could remember. And that's why it spread, not because it was long, it was fancy, but because every line challenged what people already believed. The insight you should take away from here is Nawal didn't try to be louder, be more consistent, or follow trends. He simply did one thing well. He expressed his thinking clearly, his contrarian belief. And over time, people started associating him with leverage, wealth thinking, clarity. So Naval didn't grow because he posted more. He grew because every time he spoke, he made people rethink what they believed. And that's exactly what contrarian belief do. They don't just give information, they change perspective. And that's what make people stop, think, and remember you. So the takeaway is once your beliefs are clear, your brand begins to take shape. But something even more powerful happens. People begin associating you with a particular certain idea. Can you get the depth of this? People start associating with you to a certain idea, belief, and thought process. Anyway, if you're still here, you're doing 90% better than the other people already, right? And clap it for that. Now, let's jump to the next part of the framework, which is A, anchor associations. We have done the contrarian belief, now coming to anchor associations. Now, what does anchor associations mean? Anchor associations mean deciding what ideas you want people to connect with your name. When people hear your name, a specific thought should pop up in their head. That thought is the association. When you keep repeating the same idea, why consistency? Consistency, along with repetition, builds the anchor association, if you get that. When you keep repeating the same idea in your content, you anchor that association. Now, let me simplify this a little more. Think of it like this. When someone when someone hears your name, they should instantly think, this person talks about XYZ, personal branding, motivation, mindset, anything, entrepreneurship, living life, anything. So this blank space, XYZ, is your association, right? So, for example, when people hear James Clear, they think about habits. When people hear about Simon Sinek, they think about leadership and purpose. When people hear about Mario Forleo, they think about business and life advice. These people didn't randomly become associated with this idea. They repeated those ideas consistently, and over time, those ideas became anchored to their name. Now, for the mindset coach, associations could be confidence, because she's talking about action before emotion framework, overthinking, because she's talking about breakdown of thought patterns, self-awareness, because she's talking about journaling, prompt, and self-realizations. So people think this person explained mind. So what people think about this mindset coach is this person explained my mind better than I do. And when people see their content, they think, oh, this person explains mindset really, really well. Similarly, for the self-mode founder, associations could be validation. He's talking a lot about validation. He's talking frameworks plus real experiment on validation. He might be known for his product thinking because he's talking about breakdown of real products. He might be known for his founder mindset because he's talking about decision making and a lot in his content. He might be known for his quiet building because he's talking more about the behind of the scene thinkings. So what happens is people think this person actually understands building and not just talking. And why this all matters is because personal branding is basically memory. People remember you when they can connect your name with a clear idea. If your message keeps changing, people get confused. But if you repeat the same ideas, those ideas become attached to your name. Now, before we move forward, let's pause for a second because these two ideas which we discussed can sometimes feel similar, which is contrarian belief and anchor associations, because they actually play two different roles in your personal brand. The simple difference is you can think of it like contrarian belief is equals to your different perspective, right? And anchor association is what you want to be known for, right? So contrarian belief is what you believe differently from others, and anchor association is what you want to be known for, right? The core idea of contrarian belief is I see this differently, while for anchor association is I want to be remembered for this. The purpose of contrarian belief is it helps you stand out and your perspective, and for the contrarian belief is it help people remember you, your identity, right? Contrarian contrarian belief challenges common advices, and anchor association repeat consistent themes, right? The tone differences, the contrarian belief is slightly bold and thought-provoking, while this is very clear, stable, and familiar and repetitive, right? I hope this is clear. Now, why both of them equally matters is contrarian belief creates interesting conversations, while anchor associations create clear identity. So one creates a real engagement, which is interesting conversation, and one creates your clear identity, right? And when you combine both, your personal brands become clear, memorable, and distinctive. Okay. Let me break this down further. How to identify association activity. Now, come on, draw two columns. One is things you are for and things you are against. This is just to help you understand and identify what you actually want to stand for. Uh, you need to list down a lot of things and then mark down which are your top priorities and you love to either stand against or stand for it. So first, how to identify things you are for. What is this? These are ideas you believe in and want to promote actively. If there's a debate going on, you want to jump in. Is there some content out there, you want to comment on it, put your opinion first. So if the topic is that, you want to be there. So this is what you have to identify. And how would you identify? If something is not naturally coming to you, by now it would come because you have done a lot of activity. And even if you're not put down in pen and paper, it's there in your head, I'm sure. But anyways, if you have not yet answered this to yourself, here are the questions which will help you identify a little more and think through a little deeper and get the best answers out of you, because this has to be you. Now, ask yourself these questions. What ideas do I strongly believe help people grow? Now that is very repetitive or will be very repetitive in nature, because you will be known for this, because consciously or subconsciously you will be talking about this, and this is how you'll figure it out. Just think through. You would be subconsciously or consciously would be talking about this, or you would be helping in a particular way, or with a particular belief, with a particular thought process or a particular idea. So that is what you stand for. That is your association, and for sure you want people to know you from that, right? Now, if this has not got you any answer, the next question is, what habit or behavior do I respect? Maybe you are an introvert, and instead of doing things, you observe things. You have a habit, a particular behavior that you love, or to be in that position. If that is something, get into that, think about it, and note it down. Or else, what kind of thinking do I want more people to adopt? So if you want majority of the people to adopt that thinking and you are sure that will get them results. If you're a student, again, your journey. If you're an expert, that is something you have to show from your experience, right? Next is, what principles guide the way I work or live? So if it has worked for you, the principles or the method or the way, it has worked for you and you want the other people to live it the same way, so write that. That would be your association. People would like you to know with that particular association. For example, if you're a life coach and you want to live a instead of urban life, you want a rural life and you want to promote that. So that would be your guiding principle. Get back to the roots. Just an example. What advice do I often give to others? There are ideas, there are advice. There would be always people coming to you, uh, if you if you think you have that in you, and in general in life people do come to you for discussing few things. And what are the type of advice that you often give to others? That particular thing is your association. If it has worked for 5 to 10 people in physical life, that is going to work online too. So here the point is, you have to write down 2 to 4 answers, and in sooner or later you will pick up 1, 2, or 3 and further refine it and use consistently and repetitively in your content, so that the association is well established. How much time does it take to make an establishment? A minimum of 6 months. It depends. There is not a fixed formula that it particularly takes 6 months, but you need a 6 month or to a year of consistency just for people to connect with an association, with an idea, with a thought, with a belief that you carry. For example, the mindset coach might write for the what she stands for or he stands for is self-awareness before change, taking action before feeling ready, and emotional honesty and building confidence through repetition. So this might what he or she would stand for. Similarly, for stealth founder, again, this is not a fixed example. It can vary because individual human to human has a different mindset, different thought process, different energy, different feeling, different experiences, different conditioning. So it completely varies on where are you in life and how your life has been in the last particular few decades and your learnings out of it. So stealth founder might write validating before building, talking to users early, simple focused products, and long-term thinking over hype. Now, the other thing you can think about is, I'm just giving you a hint, is you might be learning continuously and you might have some idea about that. Your clear communication, your honest work strategy, your transparent communication strategy, your creativity, your deep thinking, your discipline, your love for psychology and understanding of life, your curiosity, anything can be used this. Anything can be used, right? Now, similarly, you have to list down things you are against. Now, what are these? These are ideas or behavior you strongly disagree with. Now, you have to think about the opposite. Ask yourself, what advice in your industry you have heard multiple times now and that annoys you to the core, right? That draws your attention and you want to talk about it. You want to break that myth. So that is something that you stand for. Maybe even it's against, but you stand for it. What behaviors do you think hold people back? So if there's something you have seen in particular people, including you, that has hold you back or other people around you back, call out that. That is something you would be known for. That would be your association. What shortcuts do people take that you disagree with? This is very, very powerful. Now, if you are a little social and you meet a lot of people and you like communicating, this will naturally come to you because uh, there are a lot there are many a communication in which you disagree and you put your point well forward. That is something you stand for, even if it's against many of the people or 90% of people in the room. So that makes your association. That is something people will remember you. If you had any such experience, go back to the people who were present in that room and you will understand they still relate you to that particular concept or the particular idea or the particular sentences that you put forward that particular moment, right? Now, what trends feel misleading or exaggerated? Any events, any trends, anything that you have been following has not fetched you results and you have tried multiple number of times, uh, and you feel that it's misleading, right? Or like, for example, side hustle worth 100 crores, right? If this feels misleading to you or exaggerated to you, talk about it, because you will stand for it, you will be known for it, right? Now, is that important related to your niche? That is something you have to figure out. Is this strong belief that I have is important to showcase as your personal brand? That is something you have to sit down and figure out, that does it goes with your personality? That, do you want to talk about it repeatedly? Okay. Now, what common belief do you think is completely wrong? It can be a small belief also. If you think it is wrong and you want to uh, cross it out or point it out and talk about it, that is your association. That is the association you will be making in the long run. But the point is, remember, whatever you pick out from here and the top 3 or 4, whatever comes to you, you have to repeatedly use in your content, so that people know that what you stand for, even if it is against of 90% of the people who are maybe commenting, who are maybe part of your community. Trust me, this will work in your favor, until unless you are a rebel and you are picking up a topic which is very, very controversial, and this will cost you a lot, right? So you have to be smart enough to legally think about it. But for the majority of the thing, you have to have an anchor association, and subconsciously or consciously you have one. It's just that you have not sat down and realized it till date. Now that you've written 2 to 3 relevant points or 5 relevance in this particular section, you have to pick out the top 2, 3, 4, whatever comes to you, that you exactly want to be known for in your personal branding journey, in your content journey. You have to pick it up and make sure that are a part of your content. At least 60 to 70% of your content, it should be a part of that, right? So that is how you anchor associations. Now, for the mindset code, what he stands or she stands for is, she stands against toxic positivity in workspaces. Right? She stands against for waiting for the motivation. She stands against for avoiding the discomfort. She or he stands for against for comparing people constantly. Right? Similarly, for the health founder, he or she is standing against the startup hype culture of the uneven or the unbalanced work-life balance. Uh, Building without validation, you're putting in a lot of money, effort, time, energy, and you do not have a product market fit state of a validation from the market that it is going to work or not. So, he or she against he or she is against copying competitors blindly. He or she is against chasing funding before customers. So can you see where is this coming? When you talk about this regularly, you anchor an association. What is anchoring? Anchoring is repeating it multiple times so it get embeds in the head. Now, you can pick up anything like fake expertise, manipulative marketing, overworking without thinking. It can be small topics, it can be big topics, it can be mix of your niche and your life of whatever it can be. But it should be 100% your thought, your ideas, your way of thinking. Everything should be yours. Right? Now, come on, finish this and let's see what's next. There's a topic that is a little apart from signal framework, but that needs to be discussed. And so in between, I'm taking this time to help you understand this concept. See, this is not a part of signal framework, but an important point of view to keep a note of it. So you always need to remember the new viewers. Now, here's something most creators forget when you start creating content. Every single day, new people are discovering your content for the first time, which means something very important. Not everyone watches your content, who you are, what you believe, what you teach. Some people are completely new, others have been following you for a while. So your audience actually has 2 layers. 2 audience exist. One is the cold audience, second is the warm audience. Cold audience needs basic, warm audience wants depth. Cold audience, these are the people discovering you for the first time. They don't know you, your story, your framework, your philosophy, your message. They need simple explanations and entry point. And the warm audience, these are people who already follow you. They understand your ideas, your message, your approach. They're ready for deeper insights and advanced thinking. So why this matter is, if you only create beginner content, your loyal audience get bored. If you only create advanced content, new viewers feel lost. So strong creator balance both. So whenever you are sitting down to create the content, you have to map your content for cold versus warm audience. So this is activity, you can just note it down and do it sometime later once you have a lot of content ideas. That is, map your cold versus warm audience. In your notebook, draw two columns, one is left and right, cold audience content and warm audience content. Any content ideas you list, you have to put it in one of the column. And how do I identify this? One is, think like a beginner. Ask yourself, what would someone need to understand? What would someone need to understand if they discovered me today? What basic ideas define my work? And what beginner question do people ask about this topic? Write those in cold audience content. And step two is, think like a follower. Now think about people who already follow you and ask yourself, what deeper insight can I share now? What advanced ideas come after the basic? What detailed frameworks can I explain? Write those for the warm audience. If a topic answers, what is this? This is usually a cold audience content. And if a topic answers, how do I do this better? It's generally a warm audience content. So you have to remember, every post is someone's first impression of you. So always remember, some viewers are meeting you for the first time, others are walking deeper into your ideas. Your content should serve both journeys. Now, everything starts coming together, but we need one final piece, your core message. Stay with me till the end, because everything you are doing right now will come together beautifully in the final section, which is the last point of the signal framework, which is L, loop your message. Now, let's identify your core message. Now, we reach something very important, your core message, because personal brands grow when people hear the same clear idea repeatedly. When someone sees your content again and again, they should eventually think, oh, yes, this is the person who talks about XYZ, whatever it is. Now, that blank space is your primary message. What we are going to guess, but we are not going to guess it randomly. We'll discover it together. First, what is that primary message? Your primary message is the main belief or idea you want to be known for. It is the big idea behind your content. It should be something you strongly believe in, you can explain repeatedly, your audience cares about. Think of it like the headline of your personal brand. Questions to find your primary message. Come on, this is your activity, take it. Ask yourself these questions. What idea do I keep repeating in conversations? What belief changed the way I think about my field? What advice do I give people again and again? What lesson did I learn that made things easier for me? And if someone asked me for one piece of advice in my field, what would it be? Write one clear sentence that answers this question. And one of this to which you will resonate will be your primary, or a combination of it would be your primary message, right? For example, let's identify your second message, which is, secondary messages are the supporting ideas around your primary belief. Now, they help you explore the topic from a different angle. And here you need to ask yourself these questions. What smaller ideas support my main belief? What habits or practices connect to my main idea? What tools or framework help explain my belief? What topic naturally relate to my core idea? And write down 2 to 4 supporting ideas, right? So the mindset coach, where the primary message is confidence grows through action, the secondary messages could be self-awareness, help you understand your patterns, small daily actions build momentum, emotional clarity reduces overthinking, and systems make confidence repeatable. Similarly, for stealth mode founders, the primary message could be build quietly before launching, and the secondary messages could be validating reduces risk, and customer feedback shapes better products. Small experiments prevent big failures, and clarity leads to better decision. Simple formula you can remember. Think it like a tree. Primary message is the trunk and secondary message is the branches. All your content grows from that tree. Right? Now, come on, finish this, open your notebook, write down the primary message and write down the secondary messages. If there are more than one, don't shy away from writing, write it down. You will figure it out later. You will refine it later. You will pick up the one later, right? Now, the tip here is, your primary message does not need to be perfect. It will evolve as you grow. But once you start repeating in your content, and it might change after a month or after 6 months of continuously using it, it might evolve or change, right? So, but once you start repeating it in your content, people will slowly associate that idea with you. And that is how personal brands become memorable. And that's the now If you've done this, that's the complete signal framework. That was purely fundamental. If you have done these activities, I bet you have been known yourself a little more. You would have a lot of clarity. You would be sure that your content is completely yours, authentic, raw, from your experiences. All right. So if you're someone who is thinking this is great, the signal framework is great, I definitely need a comment of you down there. But if you're thinking this is great, but just tell me what to post. So you're already sitting on a gold mine of ideas if you have finished off this activity. And I don't mind holding your hand here too. I got you. Here's a simple shortcut. Although this is just a shortcut, you have to sit in with your content strategy. That is something different I'll cover later. But a simple shortcut, because you want to use this right here, right from today. The rule is pick any one point or two you can mix up, juggle up, okay, from your notebook and the and ask the why or the why how question and just write it down. What is this why and why how? So why this works? Because most people stop thinking at the surface level. The three times you ask why, when but when you ask why multiple times, you go deeper, you find insights, and you sound original. And suddenly you are not posting noise anymore, you're posting perspective. So for example, pick up your point, I overthink small decision, for example. So why do people overthink? Because they're afraid of making the wrong decisions. Why they're afraid? Because they fear judgment or failure. Why does that stop them? Because they believe one decision defines everything, right? You can drill down, use it 5 times, it does not matter. You all you need is to get deep inside that question or the point that you are covering, right? So the idea here is to rise above the emotions and get into the truth of why this bothers you so much, using a proven techniques called the five. It's a 5 why method. I've cut down to 3, but you can go to 5, right? So you have to ask this why question. And now write your post. I used to overthink even the smallest decision, not because I didn't know what to do, but because I was scared of being wrong. And I realized something simple. Most overthinking is not about decisions, it's about fear of judgment. Once I stopped trying to be right, it become easier to just move on. Now that's a full post from one line, right? Now the other way is to, like I said, for the cold audience and for the warm audience. So for the warm audience, it's almost always how. You tell the why and the how you did it. So for the stealth founder, the problem is I don't know how to validate ideas. So why? The first why is, why don't founders validate idea? Because they feel building is more productive. And two, why do they feel, the second why do they feel that? Because building feels like progress. And the third part, if you are still want to go with why, that's cool. But if you want to go into why and how, why is that a problem? Because you might build something no one wants. How to fix it? Talk to users before building, and you drill deep into it, right? Now the post would look like, I used to think building fast was progress, but I learned something the hard way. Building without validation is just fast failure. The real progress, talking to users before writing a single line of code, because people don't pay for effort, they pay for solution. Again, one idea, full post. Now there's another way of which is example 3 is mixing point. Just not take 1 point, club 2 points, any 2 points that you have listed down, or 2 or 3, whatever makes sense to you. This is more advanced. You can take observations, you can take a contrarian belief, you can club it together, like observations and lesson. Like people avoid action because of uncertainty, and the lesson is confidence grows through action. So the why how, or the why how, whatever feels to you, or whatever comes to you. Now, one important rule: don't try to be perfect anyway. Just write your thought, because messy thinking is real content. Real content is connection, and connection is growth. Yes, write it down, refine it later, but do not try to write it perfectly in the first go. Now, this is about signal framework. I hope this will help. Right now, don't scroll, don't save this for later. So if you are in the momentum, don't stop. Pick up one line from your notebook, ask why 3 times, write your first draft, because you are not stuck anymore. You are just one question away from your next post. So go create your next trending content. All right, if you stayed till here and actually completed the activity in this workshop, first of all, give yourself a big clap. Seriously, most people watch videos, very few people pause, think, and write things down. And if you did that today, you have already done something powerful, because the clarity you created in your notebook today is the foundation of your personal brand. Now, here's something important. You don't have to figure everything out in one day. Personal branding is not something you rush, it's something you reflect on and refine. And if you're wondering right now, okay, I've written all of this down, what do I do with it? Don't worry, we'll go deeper into it. In my next video, we are going to dive into content creation itself, how to take these ideas and actually turn them into content that attract the right audience, build trust, and grows your personal brand. And trust me, that video will be just eye-opening as this one. But for now, don't rush. Sit with this activity a little more, add more points, revisit your answers, observe your own experiences. Because the more honest you are in these exercises, the stronger your signal becomes. And in the meantime, I'll see you in the next one. And yes, if you have more doubts, drop in your comment and make sure to subscribe so you get notified when the videos goes live. Because the next step of this journey is turning this clarity into a powerful content. See you in my next video. Bye.